participation in governance processes is important to both young people and the government. Youth engagement in governance means that youth are involved and play an active role in planning, budgeting, making decisions, and setting policies. This is why the Citizen Voice in Actions, as a youth-led organization, came in and brought this young empowerment thing on the ground to enhance meaningful youth participation in decision-making spaces at all levels and building their confidence. CVA implements different programs aiming at promoting participatory governance and rights such as Generation Leadership Academy, School of Dialogue, debates, and others. And all these programs are concluded by an annual Police Youth Dialogue organized ahead of the end of each year. On the 7th and 8th of December 2022, the same Policy Youth Dialogue took place in Kigali and brought together more than 260 boys and girls from all corners of the country to rediscuss youth engagement in government policies and decisions, especially on the issues that affect them. It was its fourth edition under the theme, Empowering Youth, Inspiring Success.
The ultimate goal of the fourth edition of Policy Youth Dialogue is to provide a safe space for youth to exchange ideas, identify and debate issues, as well as empowering them to be part of decisions that shape their lives. It is time to work with youth in addressing issues affecting their lives, not to work for them or think for solutions on their behalf. Youth are bearers of their own truth, which they can only share through participation. It is only youth participation that can refrain you from being beneficiaries to being stakeholders.
The opening day of the Policy Youth Dialogue was officiated by the Swedish ambassador to Rwanda as a guest of honor. During her remarks, she saluted CVA's effort to raise this youth engagement issue and called the youth participants to be the change they want to see.
It all starts with us. So we have the inherent power, once again, to be the change we want to see happen.
Plan International Rwanda, as one of the main CVA's partners, was represented at the event. Plan's country director congratulated CVA for the successful and consistent Policy Youth Dialogue.
I think this has been very good performance, where we have seen consistency of this dialogue now for the fourth edition. I think this is good evidence of the work that is going into our partnership and your broader partnership with civil society and development partners. So I congratulate you for this achievement. My remarks this morning is just to also say it is quite important to recognize the aspect of participation, but meaningful participation. And I think this is what this Policy Youth Dialogue is trying to achieve. We have had many instances where youth are invited to talk about policy issues, to talk about many things, but they are just additional numbers that are put on the bottom of the list to say we should ensure that youth are present in our deliberations. But what we are calling for is meaningful, deep, and results-oriented participation that is inclusive and that is aligned to the real needs of youths in Rwanda.
During the event, graduates from the Generation Leadership Academy first cohort were awarded and testified the knowledge gained from the 10 days leadership studies.
It was a 2-week course, so we were taught one about leadership, different forms of leadership, the existing forms, and how some of those, how each form of leadership is good and how it may be bad if it's not implemented very well. We were also taught about different programs that were implemented by the government, supporting youth and engaging youth in leadership and governance. We also introduced to the different laws that support youth, because in most cases youth do not ask for what they deserve because they don't even know. So throughout this course we are taught about what is provided for us by the law, and how we also taught about best ways of being what I would call concerned citizens. In most cases, youth are taken as people who do not care. But throughout this course, we are taught about how being a responsible citizen has helped other nations and how best it can help our state.
The two-day dialogue was mainly made of panel discussions and presentations about different topics impacting the youth. The opening panel discussion topic was Equal Power, Now Girls and Youth Meaningful Participation in Decision-Making Spaces for Addressing Issues Affecting Them. The panelists have exchanged ideas about different barriers that hinder youth, both boys and girls, from engaging themselves in the decisions that affect them. One of the barriers is old culture that bans children from speaking before old people, as stated by Mahoro Babona Celine, the gender advisor at Plan International Rwanda. In Rwanda, we have good laws. A barrier lies on our culture and myths. I want to mean that if a child can't give an idea at his or her home, it is difficult for them to hold a speech or give any idea in the public. It means that parents have to play an important role in building confidence in their sons and daughters to participate in policy and decision-making spaces at all levels, from local to national level. It starts from home. What we can do to increase youth participation, both boys and girls, is to start from our homes. Parents should change fast. However, even those boys and girls who didn't get that opportunity at their homes should build confidence in themselves and start participating in different decision-making spaces, for instance, in their schools, other community gatherings like local meetings, and community works. That's where they should start exercising their participation by expressing their ideas. Youth participants were called to leave behind all those barriers and start participating proactively in decision-making spaces for addressing those issues affecting them. The next panel discussion was about youth participation in planning and budgeting process. Honorable Professor Omar Munyaneza, the chairperson of National Budgeting and Patrimony Commission in the Rwandan Parliament Deputies Chamber, together with Ms. Jeanette Rwigamba, the Director General of Budget and Management in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, were invited among other panelists to explain to these youth participants the national planning and budgeting process, as well as the role of citizens, youth included in these activities.
The first planning and budgeting call.
Every October, we announce the first planning and budgeting call circular. Its role is to alert all government institutions that we have started preparing the next year's budget so that they start setting next year's objectives in line with the NST1 in order to start thinking about what they want to achieve in the next year. We distribute the document in all government entities, both central and local government, especially districts, and we request districts to take that down to the citizens through meetings at the village and community works or any other forums at the village. That's why we collect people's ideas and wishes, and youth should participate in those forums to give their ideas and wishes, so that we will go to the parliament for budget presentation after having collect people's wishes. I agree with Clado, representative, who said that we still have a long way to go to reach 100% youth participation. That is why my message to the youth is that they should know about that process. Another strategy that we put in place to encourage youth participation in planning and budgeting is to publish booklets that we call citizen guide booklets. The soft copies are uploaded in our website. We even send the booklets in the schools. Writing these booklets, we try to explain the national budget in a sort of layman language so that it becomes comprehensive to any citizen. Even those living in remote areas like Gihundwe, who can't access internet, radio or television, who can access news, can access that booklet, which is published in 3 languages, Kinyarwanda, English and French. We send those books to all districts and secondary schools. We take them to schools in order to teach students about the national budget and its preparation and collecting their ideas. So I can say that we are not yet where we want to reach in terms of youth engagement, but we have different milestones in place that will help us to do it better in the
hari
future.
milestones tugenda duteganya ku buryo byagenda bimera neza.
ubwo twatumiraga mu nteko ishinga amategeko muri uyu mwaka w'ingengo y'imari.
Before we invite the National Youth Council representative at the Parliament, its budget was estimated around 173 million when youth representatives from the NYC were invited to the Parliament. They showed us a big list of activities that need budget to be done for the youth. We sent their request to the government through the Prime Minister's office, which resulted to increasing the National Youth Council budget to 187 million in the financial budget law, and that is an increase of 7.9% comparing to the budget project. Again, the Ministry of Youth and Culture was given around 4.7 billion, but because of different ideas collected, it was increased to more than 4.8 billion in the final budget law. That is why in our citizen outreach in different districts and sectors, we request that National Youth Council representatives at the sector attend our meeting with sector's authorities, and that the NYC district representative attend our meeting with the district executive
ndetse tunakorana
committees.
inama na nyobozi ba meya n'abandi n'uhagarariye inama y'igihugu y'urubyiruko ku karere nawe akaba hari.
hakwiye gushyirwamo ingufu.
The youth and their leaders need more training about budget cycle so that they become familiar with each stage of the cycle, to the extent that they keep in their mind that every October the minister announces the planning and budgeting, call circular, and start attending local meetings and other forums to give their ideas and wishes. Another thing they should know is that the youth from a certain university or a certain district can put together their ideas and wishes about the budget and send them to the Parliament. So the youth should be awake and know that their participation is very important. Stop turning their eyes on movies while others are discussing the national budget. They should attend to. This topic has been very attractive as it attracted enormous questions and views from participants, looking to know how the national budget is allocated and their contribution to planning and budgeting process. The day was closed by group discussions on different topics aiming at participants' self-assessment on their participation in decision-making spaces. The second day of the Policy Youth Dialogue also started with a panel discussion on another vibrant topic, which is youth participation in the fight against corruption, a sustainable path to Rwanda's transformation, with Ms. Ingabire Marie Immaculée, the chairperson at Transparency International Rwanda, and Patrick Bizimana, the Director of Corruption Prevention Unit at the Office of the Ombudsman, among other panelists on this topic. Addressing the participants, the Transparency International Rwanda chairperson has called the youth participants to address strongly issues affecting the country's development, especially corruption, in order to build a proper future Rwanda for themselves. I want to emphasize on your role as youth. Let me tell you, you need to stand up and fight these awful habits ruining the Rwandan society. You know why? It's because in the coming future, you are the one to lead this country. Do you want that we inherit you a corrupt country? Do you want that we inherit you a country where youth are drug addicts? Do you want a country with alcohol-addicted youth? Do you know how out here some youth who are always drunk, don't you get saddened when you meet them? It saddens me to the extent that I sometimes cry. Sincerely speaking, we want to see your strength. We want to see your energy. We want your knowledge and ideas. Me, when I stand in a place like this and see a big number of youth like you sitting in a place like this, I feel like, wow, Rwanda will be alive for thousands of years because I see that we have future leaders of our country. The youth are among the corrupt and most affected by corruption people. While looking for jobs, at their schools trying to get good marks, at work where they serve people for those who got jobs, and they're among those involved in sex corruption. That is why they are advised to keep their discipline, because the only root cause of corruption is the lack of integrity. Corruption is available in youth. I was telling you that You as youth can be victims of corruption. You can be victims of bad leadership and other impacts of corruption. However, some of you are even involved in corruption. There are some of you who use corruption to get good marks at their schools. Others use corruption to get jobs. Apart from working at the office of the ombudsman, I am a lecturer somewhere. Sometimes I face some students' behavior which tend to corruption.
Ubona yuko ari aho ngaho biganisha.
The rest of the sessions was dedicated to presentations regarding some new policies and visions of the country. The youth participants followed a presentation on the revised Gender Policy 2021 by Mr. Ntagozera Emmanuel, the gender policy and mainstreaming specialist from the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion. I can also talk about the law governing matrimonial regimes, donations and successions gazetted in 2016, which gives equal rights to men and women about succession of their parents. This is one of the laws that played an important role to take the country where is it now. I think many of you are students, others have been once at school. I talked about education policy of 2008 being amended now. It also gave the orientation about girls' education. Another thing, Rwanda is the first country globally with many women in the parliament. As the country has embarked to a new Vision 2050, the youth participants followed another presentation about that vision, and they were reminded that they should engage behind achieving the pillars of this Vision 2050. The Day 2 agenda was closed by a presentation on the analysis of the national budget for the financial year 2022-2023. All the boys and girls who participated in this 4th edition of the Policy Youth Dialogue were very thankful for the opportunity to attend the huge and important event and went back home with a burden to go and be the change they want to see in their respective communities through participating actively in all decision-making spaces available for them.
In order to get Vision 2050, so we need to use our minds, our heart, our love, our values, so that we can give, we can get, or we can reach however we want to reach.
What I have learned from this dialogue is that we, as youth, have a responsibility to fight corruption. We have to say no to corruption and alert institutions in charge as soon as we can whenever we face corruption. We have to understand how corruption destroys our country, which gives us the responsibility to fight it. Then we are going to be messengers to other youth out there of what we have learned from here so that they can understand the badness of corruption through us who attended this youth dialogue.
After here, we are going to be the agents of change. If I have been giving corruption, it is from today that I'm going to stop, because the issue that we usually face, we come, we listen, we get changed, we feel like we are changed citizens. When we go back to our old ways. But from this, I think one of the things we're going to do to inspire and motivate people who were not here is being the kinds of changes that we would want to see them doing. We were taught about the existing forms of sexual harassment. So from here, we are going to stop doing that, because the people who are doing these crimes and these issues we are talking about, we are the victims, and again we are the perpetrators. So from here, we are going to live a changed life, so that even these friends of ours can start asking themselves, but what happened to this fellow? This person has been doing this, now they are not doing so. What has happened? So we are going first to live a changed life. The second thing now, through discussions, because people who are here, they are coming from different organizations, different groups of youth. So when they go back, I believe we are going to have like a continued discussion about these issues that we talked about today.
Dialogue like this are very important, but we wish we had more, because this is the real campaign. When you train youth representatives, it is very paramount, because you give them a package that will help them to go and train others. We wish we had more and continuous trainings like this. Issues affecting youth are being sorted out by the youth themselves, because one's ownership of an issue is the first step to solve it. We have the ability to change the mindset of our fellow youth, and I'm optimistic that through the partnership with our leaders, we will change our mindsets and start participating in sorting out issues that affect them. A training like this is an important occasion to meet our fellow youth and exchange ideas and experiences, learn different things from each other so that we can build a strong partnership among us, which will help us to be more productive to the youth we are representing. What we have to do as youth is to look for information about all decision-making spaces in place so that we can attend them, and work closely with our local leaders so that we can express our ideas and wishes whenever there is a certain decision to be taken for the youth. But this won't be possible if we don't participate. Normally we participate, but our participation is not enough. That is why I was saying that we have to put more effort. In reality,
especially during the dialogue, the young boys and girls with disabilities were represented, and all facilities were in place for them to follow freely and fully the dialogue. They thanked CVA for making inclusiveness among its key fundamentals.
I can say that we are becoming familiar with attending such meetings because in most meetings and trainings, we are invited. It is very different to how it was some years ago. I can say that people have now understood our value, have discovered how smart we are, that we can give important ideas, that can be leaders, that we are developing contrary to the past. And this makes us feel strong and valued people. I want to thank CVA for the opportunity to invite us in this dialogue of many people. For some of us, it was the first time to attend such a huge event. Some weeks ago, we attended a 10-day training here, and I was among the participants, and I got a certificate. This is why I thank CVA for strengthening me and helping me to build my CV. Thank you.
The CVA's Executive Director commends the successful Policy Youth Dialogue and recognizes the role of each and every partner who made this happen.
Although much have been done, there are more recommendations and wishes from the youth. I am not going to repeat them because they have been mentioned by the representative of these participants. However, what is very important from their wishes is to increase their positive participation in decision-making spaces. Another point is that while preparing the national budget, the youth need to be considered to express their ideas and wishes. And this is what they discussed with the Minecofin. And they requested the Minecofin to engage university students while preparing the national budget. The youth who attended this dialogue have committed to be the ambassadors of change in their respective communities.
Urubyiruko ruri hano rero rwiyemeje kuba umusemburo w'impinduka kandi nziza aho batuye.